Hi, my name is Casey, and I hope everyone is having a good night. I am going to give you my presentation on my group therapy. I chose to visit Alcoholics Anonymous. Probably my earliest memory of an alcohol related incident was of a family at my church. I was very young, maybe early elementary school, and the the mom had a husband and several children. The dad was taking the children home. A drunk driver struck their vehicle, and all of the occupants were killed. So that really made a strong impact on me at a young age. My ex husband struggles with alcoholism, and I had attended AA with him once. So it kind of seemed natural for me to go with what was familiar. And that is where we will start my journey with the group experience. A lot of people are familiar with AA, Al Anon, Alateen, NA. All of those are a 12-step program. Probably the one of the better synopsis that I have is in this book, Alcoholism, Social Issues Firsthand. And I got this at the local library. This is a series. And what this says is that Alateen and Al Anon are based on the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. And these programs encourage members to help themselves before they try to help others. So the criteria for AA is that anyone can go in that has the desire to stop drinking. The criteria for Al Anon and Alateen is that they must have someone that has affected their lives. I picked a group, and it was on a Friday evening. I was on my way to the group. I got to the meeting place, and I had selected the wrong time. So I hurriedly picked another meeting that occurred on a Friday night, and it was already late. So I didn't know how successful I would be at finding a meeting. I did. I found one. I found an AA meeting at a senior recreation center in an unfamiliar part of town. I go, and I get out of my car, and there's a large, tall, burly man with salty gray hair, and he's kind of looking at me. I'm trying to listen to the door to see if I can hear anyone inside because the building looks dark. And he tells me that the AA meeting will start soon, that people are in there, and I can go in if I want to. He asks me if it's the first time that I've come in. I tell him yes, and that I am completing requirements for a class. And so he pretty much recruits me to his Al Anon group. So I go in, and I have intentions of visiting both. I end up staying in the Al Anon group for several meetings. So that is the story of how I happened upon this group. The other positive thing that came out of this is that the day that I got to the group, they were looking for a new place to meet. The recreation center had told them that they could no longer meet in that building. I called my pastor immediately and asked him if he was interested in hosting AA and Al Anon because it was both groups. Again, meeting at the same time, same place. They wanted to stay together, which I thought was great because of families and friends that are dually conflicted can come in at the same time. And my pastor said, yes, please give the information. So less than 3 weeks later, our church began hosting both of the groups, and we have 3 weekly meetings at our church location. The attendees in the group were men, women. Their age range started probably around the late 20s through the late 60s. The oldest participant that I saw was a very senior gentleman, probably 80, 85, and he said that he had been in the program of Al-Anon over 20 years. And the leader was, he had been in around 6 years, and he was someone that that came in as an attendee and then went to the counseling side. There were, the ethnicities were mixed. Mostly in my group of Al-Anon, we had Caucasian and Hispanic. In the AA group, there were just mixed ethnicities. It was much bigger. Our group was small. It was under 10, 7 to 10, depending on what meeting it was or what time in the month. The participants did seem comfortable sharing. This particular group had formed a close, tight-knit bond because they had been together for a while. Also, more importantly than this, everyone respected the other person's experience and story and had sympathy for each other. So it was a very reverent, respectful, supportive environment, and I don't know that it would have been so easy to share if the participants didn't feel encompassed by that safe bond of a common experience. We addressed several topics. Mainly, a lot of the problems that I saw were children. Also, our group had parents of narcotic children. So we had children, alcoholic children that had hurt the parents continually. We had spouses who lived with alcoholics. We had a lady whose ex-husband was an alcoholic, and she had married 3 alcoholics in a row. And then parents. And that's probably what I would consider to be the bulk of what you're going to get in any meeting, just looking at how alcoholism affects the family units and the closeness of people in relationships. We also talked about codependency, which is not something that I had really thought about before. Codependency just being when one person is dependent on another person for happiness. I did feel comfortable in the group. It wasn't particularly something that I found interesting, so I didn't care to go as much as I would have if it had been something that personally affected me or I was suffering or hurting from. I do feel it was very valuable, and I would recommend it. It had been recommended to me during my marriage and when I went through my divorce, and it probably could have helped me then. I have attended, like I said, I've attended support groups in the past. One thing that happened when I worked was we had 3 deaths occur in 13 months. So out of a group of 20 people, 3 people unexpectedly dying, young people, healthy people, just really shocked our tiny work group, and we were required to go through bereavement counseling all 3 times. And that was different than an anonymous group because obviously these are people that you work with and see day to day. It was led by a PhD, a psychologist, instead of just a lay counselor, I guess you would say. And the AA and Al-Anon those are people that you don't really have any other contact with. And in the work world, we had already committed this very close-knit group. So that's how those were different. The AA meeting that I attended in the past was a closed group. I thought it was an open group. but that was many years ago before I really knew what Alcoholics Anonymous was, and that I couldn't go to a closed meeting if I was not the one who wanted to quit drinking. So those are my experiences with the group supports, the AA in the past, the bereavement, Al-Anon. I do feel like that the 12-step programs are effective for people who need the supports. I think that they're a good supplement in a combination with other things. There were some people in there that went to a meeting most days of the week. I could see definite progress in those who had been in for a while and those just starting out. So I do, again, uphold that it's effective, and I would recommend people for it. And probably, besides just my observation of the dynamics and interaction that the participants had, the most positive thing was making a connection and knowing that I was welcome at any time. Thank you.